In this video, we review the policy capabilities of the Palo Alto Network's next-generation firewall. In the Management User Interface, the Policy tab brings up configuration settings for security policies, network address translation or NAT policies, quality of service or QoS policies, SSL decryption policies, application override policies, and captive portal authentication policies. The Security Policy section is where the administrator defines security rules for the firewall. One particularly useful feature of the Palo Alto Network's firewall is the concept of zones. A zone provides an abstraction for one or more network interfaces and VLANs in order to simplify rules using these interfaces. For example, your outside network interfaces may be placed in an untrusted zone, your internal network interfaces in a trusted zone, and DMZ or specialty networks in a separate DMZ zone. We will discuss zones in more detail in the network video. Security rules can be based on source zone, destination zone, source address, which can be a combination of an individual IP, multiple IPs, or one or more network segments, source user or group, destination address, again, can be an individual IP, multiple IPs, or network segments, one or more applications, and service. The individual services shown here are system defaults for HTTP and HTTPS. Additional services can be defined within the firewall itself for particular cases, such as the MySSH one shown here. Actions can be configured to allow or deny access. A security profile is another feature that we will discuss. A security profile is a combination of settings for antivirus, vulnerability protection, anti-spyware, URL filtering, file blocking, and data filtering. A profile can be applied to one or more security policies. As an example, let's consider a specific case for URL filtering where we wish to take a particular predefined URL filtering profile that contains a particular list of allowed and denied sites and apply it to one or more security rules based on a specific set of applications, in this case SSL and web browsing, and associate it with a particular group of users. In this case, we'll use the administrators group. Security profiles will be discussed in more detail in the upcoming objects video. Options can also be set for each security rule, including logging, scheduling, and QoS tagging. Network address translations, or NAT rules, are used to control both inbound and outbound NAT. NAT rules can be based on zone, interface, address, and service. Both static and dynamic NAT is supported for outbound traffic, static NAT for inbound traffic. Quality of service, or QoS rules, can be created to apply QoS policies based on zone, source address, source user or group, destination address, and selected application or application group and service. Once a QoS rule is defined, the traffic associated with that rule can be assigned a QoS class. Higher the class, the higher the priority. This is also be fully custom defined. QoS classes will be discussed in more detail in the upcoming network video. The Palo Alto Network's firewall also has the capability to force decryption of selected SSL traffic by acting as an intermediate proxy. This allows for further inspection of SSL traffic for such things as malware and data leak protection. SSL decryption rules define the specific traffic to decrypt based on source and destination zone, source address, source user or group, destination address, and URL filtering category. This is particularly useful when some categories of sites, including user-defined categories, need to be exempted from SSL decryption. The rule then specifies which SSL certificate to use to re-encrypt the data after inspection by the firewall and whether or not to perform SSL decryption. Application override rules are used to override the application identification capabilities of the firewall in specific cases. In the entry shown here, traffic on TCP port 80 from the outside world or untrusted zone to internal addresses or trust zone is categorized as a custom Corp web server application, rather than the default of, for example, web browsing, SSL, or so forth. Captive portal rules are used to define the use of a captive portal for web-based authentication. Multiple portals can be defined, and each portal assigned to a specific network segment based on zone or address. This concludes the overview of the Palo Alto Network's firewall policy capabilities. The next video will cover object definitions, security policies, and data patterns.